We are in India, traveling around the country, looking at interesting stories and interesting people. Mehul Parekh, who's sitting here with me, is Indian born but lives in the United States. Mehul, tell me, how did you end up going to the United States?
After I finished high school here, I decided to go to college in the U.S. Everyone in my family had done that.
And what did you go to study?
I did information science, bachelor's in information science.
And which city did you head for in the United States?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And which school did you attend?
University of Pittsburgh.
So when you look at the comparison between the choices you had in India for university and going to the States, was there any backwards and forwards in your mind? Was it absolute that that's where you had to go?
Yeah, I was pretty sure. Here it's more academic focused. There's more practical experience along with the academics, and you get a more well-rounded education, at least in post-secondary.
So Mehul, what did you have to go through in order to attend an American university?
So I basically had to take my TOEFL exam, which is basically assessing your English skills, as well as the SATs, which is common, and then I had to apply to universities in the U.S.
And then what about the visa side?
So for studying in the U.S., there's something called an F1 visa, which is the student visa. So I had to apply for that, and as part of that, they check your financials to make sure you're coming back, or what have you, how your family background is and all that stuff.
And how long was the process to get an F1?
It wasn't very long. Maybe, I just had to go for an interview once I got admitted to my university, and then just went to the consulate, applied, and then got my visa.
And you were living in which city?
Mumbai.
In Mumbai. So you arrived in the United States and you studied, you did obviously 4 years.
Yeah.
Did you go on to do post-grad studies?
No.
So then after graduation from university, you had a couple of choices.
Yes, I could either come back here, I could do my postgraduate studying, or I could work and get some experience, and which is what I decided to do.
So you decided the latter was to work.
Yeah.
So explain to us, what is the process once you decided that you were going to work and you made the decision you wanted to work in the States? What was the next process you had to go through?
So the next process, as part of the student visa, you get some practical training allowance. So it's typically 12 months, and now they have extended it to like maybe 28 months. So you get that amount of time as part of your student visa to get practical. As part of your F1. But if you want to continue beyond that, then you need to apply for the work visa, which is the H1 visa.
So in order to graduate from your basic program, you had to get that practical experience. That's a requirement.
Yeah.
So
well, it was not a requirement. It was just something I wanted to do so that I can fortify whatever I had learned in school, and just get that practical experience of working.
So you ended up joining an American company, and during the F1 period, and then you made the decision to transition over to the H1 visa.
Right.
So what was involved? Did the company have to make the application? What's involved in obtaining an H1?
Yeah, the company has to basically sponsor you, so they had to go through an application process to sponsor me for work visa.
And obviously that is a degree is a requirement on the H1.
Yes.
And was there a lot of paperwork involved for you?
Not me. For my company, yes, not for me. I just had to provide some limited, information about myself, my degree, and I was already working with my company at that point under the practical training, so I had to show that experience as well.
And the process in terms of time for the H1?
I think it typically takes 2 or 3 months to get that process completed. So, and again, it varies from year to year. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, sometimes it's a little shorter.
One of the things that in some of our research we have been looking at has been the implications of H1 visas, and how long does it take to fill in the booming years of when there is high employment rates in the United States, the H1 visa fills very, very quickly. It is a quota system. And then in periods when there are sort of recessions, such as the post-2008, the H1 visa could take sort of 12, 13, 14 months to fill its quota. Being a quota-driven system has been a rather interesting and unique, because at certain times a lot of foreign nationals feel there are not enough H1s that have been issued. And now, obviously, in this particular economic time frame, where they are not being filled as rapidly, because there are much fewer jobs. So coming back to sort of, at any point did you think about your opportunities in India versus the United States?
Uh, for me, the choice was because my family was in the U.S. My immediate family, my extended family. So it was not a big consideration for me, at least at that point. But I know a lot of other folks who have decided to come back and start businesses here.
So do you think they came back because there are some more opportunities for them here in India versus in the United States?
I think it was a combination of both opportunities here and the immigration system in the U.S. It was a combination of those two factors.
So you've now been in the United States between your studies and working for about just over a decade.
Yeah, 15 years actually.
And in that process, you also sort of made the applications for permanent residence.
Yeah. So my application was, first put in February 2005, and we're in December 2012. So it's almost 8 years, and I'm still waiting. When I applied, since I just had a bachelor's degree, I was applied under the EB3 category, which is people who have bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
EB2 is either you have a master's or you have more than 5 years of experience,
Mm-hmm.
and then EB1 are your PhDs or like international management experience folks. So the EB3 category is the slowest,
Mm-hmm.
and currently I'm still looking at another 6 or 7 years before I get my green card.
Wow.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, my employer was able to refile my application, and we're just in the process of doing that into the EB2 category, because now I definitely have a lot more than 5 years of experience, and that would mean that I would
Accelerate.
get my green card in maybe another year or year and a half at the most.
So again, one of our challenges in the United States, with a lack of immigration reform and without really clear vision for the United States on where things are, many people are caught up in this no man's land. Fortunately, you are not caught up in no man's land as such, but there are other business people and various students and talent, the intellectual talent, that are facing these gigantic challenges. We are not talking about the migratory labor force, we're not talking about the Mexican labor issues. We are talking about academia and academic talent that has provided a mainstay and a backbone for the development of tech companies and tech development in the United States. Now, tell me sort of...
If I can just interrupt you for just a second, I just want to piggyback on what you just said. So it has impacted me from a standpoint of, mobility. So if I want to change my job, I find it much more difficult.
Because your employer has to apply,
Right.
your new employer.
So that's a challenge. Also, I got married before my green card application was applied. So my wife is currently not on my green card case, because of a technicality in the system. And currently, we just had a baby 2 years ago, and so she quit her H1 job, and she had run out of her H1 time allowance. So now, she's looking to work, but now she's unable to work because she's on a dependent visa on me, and she doesn't have an option to work directly. So it has impacted us.
So it becomes even
significantly.
much more
Yes.
complex.
Yes.
So when you look at all of these complexities around the visa, and you look at a lot of your friends who are Indian or who are of the international group, do you find that many of them saying it's just not worth?
Oh, absolutely. And I've considered that myself. I've looked at maybe migrating to Canada as an option. I always wanted to start a business. I had, entrepreneurial aspirations. So I thought I would work for a few years, get some experience, and maybe start a business of my own. And this whole immigration situation has kind of limited that for me, and as well as the fact that I'm not getting any younger. I have a young family now, so more risk. I mean, you can take more risks when you're younger rather than when you get to a stage where you have a family. So that's another challenge as well.
So, as they are now, you are aware of so many of your Indian friends returning to India and setting up companies in India. Do you feel that in a period of time, India is going to become more and more competitive to the United States because the United States is not tapping into some of the international brain power?
Yes, I believe so. So, in the early 2000s and during the dot-com era, there was a phenomena called the brain drain from India to the U.S. and now there's a phenomena called the reverse brain drain where people are going back to India and China and those places. So over time, I think it's going to make a big difference because if you look at the number of companies that are started in the U.S. by immigrants, it's well over 50 or 60% of the companies are started by immigrants, like first generation immigrants.
First generation immigrants.
Yes.
And then the next part of the equation is we are also seeing Americans who are seeing opportunities in other countries and are leaving along with their foreign counterparts to join them building companies in other countries. We have to take a look at the broader scope of economics and the immigration policy and how it relates to economics and to future GDP growth. We are in a period of change. Thank you so much for sharing your story and some of your ideas with us.
My pleasure.